Plans for a new judicial center in Springfield were the topic of discussion this afternoon in a virtual public hearing. The proposed new trial court would replace the city's two existing courthouses.
And Western Mass News reporter Addie Patterson joining us now live in studio with more from today's discussions. Addie.
Chris and Abby, if approved, the Commonwealth's proposal would consolidate Springfield's current court operations from two buildings into one. The proposal also eliminating the city's current plan to purchase land and build a state-owned regional justice center. Instead, the Commonwealth would request proposal from private developers for a long-term lease to either build a new facility or renovate one of the existing buildings for court operations. Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno speaking out during today's meeting, stressing the need for a new judicial center in Springfield after dangerous toxic mold was discovered throughout the Roderick Island courthouse a few years ago.
5 people who have worked in the existing courthouse have died of ALS. Additional 60 cases of cancer have been linked to people working in the building. I lend my full support to this project proposal, and I strongly encourage the Asset Management Board to approve it.
At this time, there has not yet been an exact location on where a new courthouse would be rebuilt. Officials say the proposed project would significantly speed up the building's current construction timeline and is expected to save over $80,000 for the city over the next decade. For now, reporting live in studio, Addie Patterson, Western Mass News.